Hello and welcome to a very, very special episode 19 of Establish the Collection. I'm Cody Main, joined as always by my co-host, Gary Hartman. Gary, how's life back in the city treating you?
We're doing okay. Besides the fact that it just took me 2 hours to find a parking spot, I'm doing okay. And you know what? What can be wrong? Football is in 2 days, guys. 2 days. Nothing can go wrong here.
Yeah, exactly. A very special episode because we are graced by the presence of a man who needs no introduction. Adam Levitan is back, making his first appearance since he helped us kick this thing off in episode 1. Adam, welcome back. How's it going?
Yeah, I mean, it's going well. I love what you guys have done with the podcast. You're getting the clips out there, the GTO clips. Everybody knows the key to having a successful podcast is you need to touch on two topics, sex and gambling, and you're going to have a successful podcast. And you guys, I think, are doing a good job.
Well, maybe you can bring some sex on the podcast tonight, but we do want to get into some football talk here. Obviously, things are starting to get hot and heavy. We're all getting extremely busy as week 1 of the NFL season approaches. I just saw that our first run of DFS projections are live on the site. So quick reminder, if you guys are playing DFS, do not forget to head to establishthedrun.com, subscribe to the in-season package. It's where you'll find all the actionable information you guys need to be successful this season. But that's not why Adam's here today. We brought Adam on to help us launch a brand new partnership with Dibbs, a platform that allows users to trade fractional interests in sports cards. Dibbs is something that we've talked about briefly on the podcast, Gary, I believe. But for those who are new, Dibbs is the first 24/7 online marketplace for trading fractional shares of sports cards. With Dibbs, you can instantly buy and sell fractional shares of your favorite sports cards directly from your phone or computer. No more fees from eBay. No more hours of packing and shipping cards, getting stuff damaged. No more of the BS that we've had to deal with the traditional card market in years past. So Gary and I have had a blast playing around on the site. We've already been buying and selling for a few months. Now we're excited to share it all with you. So if you haven't signed up for an account yet, check out the link in the description for the show for more details. But Gary's got Dibbs pulled up on our screen now. If you're following along on YouTube, highly recommend checking that out. You guys can see what the platform looks like. The reason we brought Adam on, we just think that the best way to give you guys a glimpse of the platform and explain how fun and easy it is to do kind of a fantasy draft, what we're all good at, right? So we're gonna get a little skin in the game. We got Adam here to do a 3-man snake draft of NFL sports cards, active players only. So similar to fantasy football, where we track performance, based off of fantasy points and how we do each week or each year. We're going to track performance, but only based off of how much a player's card market increases throughout the week or throughout the season. So have the best ROI at the end of the season. You walk away with bragging rights. Obviously, you walk away with a bigger bag. That's what we're all here for. So we're going to kick it to Adam. We'll let our guest select first. In the sports card world, we know quarterbacks are king. So for this draft, we'll be selecting 3 quarterbacks each, 1 running back, and 1 wide receiver. We get a $100 weekly budget, $20 invested per pick. Adam, don't worry about any of the sports card lingo. We will handle that. You don't have to worry about buying any Jalen Hurts college jerseys because Dibbs doesn't have any of that on their platform. So go for it with the 101. Who you got?
I got to ask, The Rock has a card and it's worth $10,000.
Yeah, you want to see it? It's this
Oh,
Miami Bumblebee. Like, I guess this was it's one of those perforated Sports Illustrated for kids cards that was, I guess, probably given away when he was at the University of Miami in some sort of like game manual, game program or something. And yeah, people love these cards. So The Rock's not on the table today though, but the Rock cards, 5 figures.
well, it's interesting because obviously Patrick Mahomes is going to be the most valuable, but we're looking for delta, right? We're looking for change across the course of the season, right?
Yep.
I think, without knowing too much about the card market, I think that the players whose teams win the most are most likely to go up, even if they're already high, right? So, I guess it's boring, but I think the Chiefs, in my opinion, are the overwhelming favorite to win the Super Bowl. And so even though Mahomes' cards are already cresting towards what I would figure to be some kind of peak, I mean, my God, they could go even higher if he wins another Super Bowl. So I think that's most likely. I'll go ahead and say, I'll go ahead and take Mahomes first.
I think that's a very good pick. Obviously, probably the best player in the league. Dibbs has a good portfolio for Patrick Mahomes here. You can see they got his Panini Contenders Optic rookie ticket valued at around $18,000 on the site right now. 2 Prism Silver rookies of him, also 1 of 9, 1 of 10. So a good portfolio here. Something that's really fun about Dibbs is that you can, and one of the reasons we're so excited about the partnership is you can just invest in the player's market overall. Obviously the more cards that come into that, the better, but you can invest in their market. And as their overall, mostly rookie card market goes up or down, you'll reap the benefits of that. Obviously, can't go wrong with that pick in the 101.
Yeah, as Gary mentioned, you don't have to worry about any sort of college jersey cards. You don't have to worry about any ungraded cards. You don't have to worry about any, fraudulent cards. Dibbs is out there sourcing the best cards, adding it to the player's portfolio. You don't even need to select on the individual card if you don't want to. You can just buy the entire player's portfolio. So when you select to buy Patrick Mahomes, you're buying all 5 cards listed there. And as the value of his portfolio increases, so does your investment. So very innovative feature, I think, in making it easier for people that don't quite understand the card market, making it a little easier for them to get involved. All right, Gary, you're up with the 102.
All right, good. Let me get back to the screen here. 102. Obviously, as we talk about with this a lot, and you just mentioned, quarterback is king here, right? So really have to think, and looks like they have all the pinnacle quarterbacks in the league are on the site. We got Mahomes, we got Brady, we got Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers, Lamar, Russ, we got Baker, we got Tua, so we got some of the younger guys as well. This also may be boring, and it's going to be hard to see him, surpass what he did last year, kind of taking that mega leap. But I am so bullish on the Bulls offense once again. I think that Josh Allen has as good of a chance as winning an MVP this year as any quarterback in the league. I've been trying to stack them up in best ball as much as I possibly can. And so I'm going to go with Josh Allen with the 102. Just coming off just what a remarkable year, set up as strong as any quarterback really is in the league. I'm very excited about Josh Allen. I'm excited about his card market moving forward. I'm going to take Josh Allen with the 102.
All right, and since you've got your account pulled up here and you've actually got some funds that we can play with a little bit, why don't you show the people what it looks like to actually buy a fraction of Josh Allen?
So we're doing $20 per card here, as you said, $100 weekly. So basically, I'm just buying into the player collection, the Josh Allen market as a whole. And as this goes up or down throughout the season is what we will track as far as competition against each other. So I'm going to go ahead and buy $20 of Josh Allen card collection. And boom, there it is.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right.
God, they were throw heavy at the end of last season and into the playoffs. And then in the preseason game, they're like, oh, we'll let Josh Allen play. Takes 18 snaps in the preseason. They call 17 passes on the first 18 plays. I mean, Josh Allen's, like his ceiling projection between his ADOT and their throw rate is like literally breaking like Leone's sheets. Like they literally can't handle Josh Allen because of their aggression vertically and how often they pass. It's crazy.
And I think it's in the card market too, especially. I think there's still enough people out there that are questioning whether last year was a fluke, whether he can do that again this year. And man, I wouldn't be shocked if I would expect the offense to regress as a whole some. But man, if they didn't leave everything on the field last year, there's still more growth there. Another year of provability. I mean, Josh Allen's card market could really solidify itself going into this year.
Yeah, and I think depending where you look, he's either third or fourth in MVP favorite odds this year. I'm looking at plus 1,400 right now on a site I just pulled up. So somewhere around there, as far as MVP favorite, somewhere in the top 5 makes sense to me for Josh Allen.
All right, I'm on the clock. We're looking for Delta, right? I don't think there's anybody on the board right now whose card market has fallen more over the last year plus than Lamar Jackson. And I think that we could get to a point with Lamar Jackson heading into this season. I know that there's some injuries at the receiving core. They seem to be dealing with injuries every other day at the running back position. But I believe in Lamar Jackson. I believe in his ability to get back to MVP caliber play. And when he was going on that MVP run, his card market was insane. He's got a cult following. He's an electric guy, charismatic guy. So I think that plays well with his card market. I think if the Ravens take another step, long postseason run, or if he gets back to that MVP winning ways, I think we could see his card market really, really pop. Just seeing his Prism base card on Dibbs for $711, knowing what we saw it go for during that MVP run in 2019 seems kind of crazy. So for my first selection, I've got Lamar Jackson.
Yeah. I mean, there was a time we actually had Lamar as the number one quarterback this year for fantasy. We backed off that with the injuries to Bateman and to some other guys, key pieces on their team, obviously, J.K. Dobbins. But yeah, I mean, I think that Lamar is capable of winning MVP again. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind. And Mark Andrews can play better, and they're going to need Lamar more this year with no Dobbins. And, I would not surprise me at all. Let's put it that way. If Lamar was this year's #1 fantasy quarterback.
Yeah, totally agree with you. Yeah, we were just looking at this was kind of the peak of sports card madness, and obviously we've seen the market cool a little bit since then. But August of 2020, his cards were going for his Prism base cards, the one that you see on the screen, for $711. We're going for north of $3,600. So clearly, there's been a big fall off. Last year didn't help his case a whole lot, but fully expect that to bounce back up throughout the season, assuming he plays well. All right, I think if we're going true snake style, I guess I'm back on the clock.
Mm-hmm.
I got to stay on brand. You guys probably wouldn't snipe me on this one, but I'm just going to go with it. I don't care if we're in round 2. Tua Tagovailoa with my second selection. Talked a lot about Tua this offseason. And again, looking for Delta, somebody that I think could really improve their status in the league, status in the sports card world. I mean, I don't think that an offseason sets up better for somebody like Tua. We've talked about it. Ryan Fitzpatrick's out of town, no longer looking over his shoulder. They've added weapons in the wide receiver core. He's another year removed from the hip injury. He gets a full NFL offseason under his belt. I really like Tua this season. I've got full physical Tua cards, but I'll get as much action as I can in the fractional streets too. So second selection, Tua Tagovailoa.
Yeah. I like it. I mean, you tell me if I'm wrong here, Adam, but seemingly all positive buzz for Tua coming out of camp and into the preseason. They are able to really kind of build that offense around him this year. Obviously, his weapons are improved, and we're talking about somebody that was a consensus #1 overall player for most of his college career. So somebody that I've understood your excitement about all offseason, Cody.
Yeah. I think the biggest issue around the Dolphins, the offensive line, Brandon Thorne, who does the offensive line ranks for us, has the Dolphins offensive line, I think, stone cold dead last, 32nd overall, or somewhere in the bottom 3. But from a weaponry perspective, I mean, I think Jalen Waddle was probably overdrafted, but still really good player. Will Fuller, obviously, we love. Devontae Parker, I think, is underrated. And they get Gaskin, who plays well in the pass game. They have Bowden. They have Jasicki. Shout out Penn State. And so for Tua to finally get a full camp, to be another year removed from the hip injury, not having Ryan Fitzpatrick, the GOAT, looking over his shoulder, I would agree it's all trending up for Tua, and it's trending up for the Dolphins too. I'd be surprised if they were able to win the division this year, but I think they have a reasonable chance to make the playoffs, and I think that would be a nice boost to Tua's card stock, I assume.
Yeah, and the only real threat there would be Deshaun Watson maybe coming in as far as, actual playing time to Tua. We don't have any real evidence to suggest that that's happening anytime soon. We have to assume that this Dolphins team's going in full swing with Tua at the helm. And I'm curious to see how this card portfolio grows as well. Obviously, we talk a lot about this too, Cody, but that 2020 Prism class, people are probably still getting those cards back from PSA. I'm guessing the pop on that Prism rookie that we see there, the base, will continue to grow. However, there's certainly also going to be opportunities for Dibbs to add, some of the more rare stuff, some of the rookie patch autograph from National Treasures, maybe some of the shorter printed colored stuff. So, Dibbs is certainly looking to expand their portfolio as they go on here. So I think Tua is a perfect example of a quarterback where we could see this portfolio to continue to grow.
Yeah, I would agree. I would love to see some National Treasure RPA out of 99s, some of that shorter printed stuff, more rare stuff for these newer quarterbacks, getting some of these base cards on the platform and adding to them with the more rare stuff is definitely appealing.
Yep, totally. All right, so I guess I'm back on the clock here. I think it makes sense for us to keep hammering away at quarterbacks. And I'm between two guys here, right, in this range here. So obviously, Dak Prescott, somebody we've spoken about a lot. Certainly favored for comeback player of the year, somebody that is, has the chance to be in the most prolific offense, especially from a fantasy perspective in the league. And then I'm looking at this guy right underneath him, Kyler Murray, who is a consensus top 3-4 fantasy quarterback this year, who should be settling in nicely going into his third NFL season, who we've seen just in, incredible highlight reel type plays. I think he's just scratching the surface as far as his ceiling is concerned. In my opinion, the only thing holding this guy back is Cliff Kingsbury, but has a Giants fan, I think I'm going to go with Kyler Murray with my pick here. I want to stay off Dak. We have the select field level Silver Prism rookie in the portfolio right now. That's a card I love. I'm big on the select football rookies, and Kyler is just someone that I'm excited about. I've been trying to grab more and more of him in best ball when he falls a little bit past his ADP. I like their end of season schedule a lot, so I've been trying to pair him with Hopkins where I can there, and he's just someone that I think obviously as long as he stays healthy, will just continue to improve.
Yeah. I actually am glad that you took Kyler because I wasn't going to take him. I don't trust Cliff Kingsbury for them to be a winning team at all. Am I on the clock? Or do you want to have a Kyler Murray comment, Cody?
Yeah, no, that was what I said. Cliff Kingsbury is my only concern, and I don't think there's much to say there. I think it's a valid concern, Cliff Kingsbury, as the man in charge there for sure.
Kyler's a beast, though.
All right, so I'll purchase my Kyler Murray share since we are on my account. I'm going to take some Kyler Murray, $20 into his collection. Got it. Awesome. You are up, my friend. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. I actually really like this one when we're talking about Delta. I actually think that the Browns, if the Chiefs don't win the Super Bowl, I actually think the Browns might win the Super Bowl. From top to bottom, the Browns have more talent than the Chiefs. There's no doubt. Their defense is so much improved from a talent perspective. I mean, obviously, they're absolutely loaded at offensive line. And I think they're kind of loaded at skill players if you count Kareem Hunt. They have so many good tight ends. And, Donovan Peoples-Jones will be getting some run, even though they won't play too many 3 wide receiver sets. I mean, Odell reportedly looks really healthy. I mean, if it wasn't for the Chiefs, the Browns would be really in a prime place to go to Super Bowl and win it along with the Bills. And so, I know the Chiefs play the Browns in week 1. I think if the Browns can win that game somehow, I assume Baker's market would spike a little bit. And I think as people realize how good this Browns team is, I mean, I don't necessarily think Baker is the best player in the world, but he's kind of charismatic. He's kind of a good looking dude. He's in commercials and stuff like that. I could see that being reflected in the card market some. And if he were to upset the Chiefs this year in the playoffs and go to the Super Bowl and win it, I mean, I would assume that the cards would go through the roof. So I think Baker, maybe not on his individual play, which has been up and down. I do think he'll play much better this year, but just on the play of the team, I mean, I assume Baker's market is somewhat depressed relative to these other guys right now. And so I think their team has a really good chance to be really, really, really good. I have a bunch of bets on Browns to win the AFC North and Browns to make the playoffs and Browns over on wins. And I still like all those a lot. And so, yeah, I think Baker would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, and Baker's card market too makes sense from just a macro perspective because as we saw with NBA, basketball cards really shot up in population counts with the 2019 class with Luka and Trey and DeAndre Ayton and those guys. We saw it kind of happen in the NFL, but not until 2019. So if you look at that base Prism PSA 10 there for Baker, that's valued at $518 on Dibbs. That card has a population count of 887. That's from the 2018 class. If you fast forward 1 year to 2019, someone like Drew Lock, his population count on his PSA 10 base rookie card is 2,900 right now. So there's almost 2,100 more Drew Lock base Prism cards than there is for Baker Mayfield. So I like that just from a macro card perspective. I don't think we're going to see a whole lot more of those come back from grading at this point where PSA is at through their backlog, maybe a few more than older quarterbacks. But we've talked a lot about the Browns offense this offseason and the Browns team as a whole. So I really like that selection there.
All right. With my next, for my next trick, I am going to take Dak Prescott, who I actually am not familiar with how his card market is doing since the injury, but there was so much overblown about his shoulder during camp. I mean, Jay Glazer said the shoulder is no problem. And I don't know what people are thinking doubting Jay Glazer. So I know his ADP, Dak's ADP had really sunk. I saw him get into the 8th round at times in some softer formats, even the 9th round. And so I don't know what Dak's card market has been doing, but man, I mean, if I had to bet on one team to lead the league in yardage this year, it might be the Cowboys. They are just going to absolutely be so good on offense. And honestly, I don't think they're going to play that well on Thursday night. So maybe you wait to make this buy until after the game against the Bucks. I don't know. But I think they'll play well over the course of the season on offense, at least. And yeah, Dak health concerns are almost non-existent to me. And they're going to have Amari and Lamb for the long term. I think Gallup likely walks as a free agent, but I think Lamb and Amari is enough to keep it going. So yeah, I would take Dak.
Yeah, I was buying up Dak physical cards too, right before the shoulder injury. And as you alluded to, his market actually did really fall off around the time that injury was announced. He was creeping upwards of $800, $900. That card settled in right around 750 right now. I think what you mentioned there with kicking things off Thursday night, first game, they're 7.5 point dogs right now on the road in Tampa Bay. If they get their doors blown off or don't look great, maybe there's another buying window there before we head into the regular season. But man, yeah, we love this offense. I love Dak. I love the weapons that he has. So love that buy right there.
Agreed. No argument there. And again, that 2015, 2016 Prism class, such lower pops, and America's team. We spoke about Dak at length a couple weeks ago, but there's lots of reasons to be bullish on his card market. But I love that call from Adam. If we think the Bucs win on Thursday, if we think that Dallas particularly and Dak might be a little bit rusty or whatever it may be, I would definitely wait till this weekend, early next week to make some Cowboys purchases as far as card market's concerned. Absolutely. All right, so I think I'm back on the clock here. Might as well finish off my 3 quarterback run. And I'm going to go with a guy that I'm hoping they let cook all season this year. I'm hoping Shane Waldron's entrance really kind of lets us see what we saw for the first 6-7 weeks of last season with Russell Wilson across the entire season, because it's a guy that, it seems to be spoken at ad nauseum about the fact that he's never won an MVP award. And I think that's kind of overblown, because if you go back, there's no season that he should have theoretically won an MVP award, but definitely means that he's still one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I think that he will get there eventually, and there's no reason to think that this season doesn't have as good of an opportunity for that as any other. So give me Russell Wilson out of that 2012 class. He's back to those last couple of years of the Topps Chrome rookies, which we have in here. We also have a Contenders Auto 10 in here, which I absolutely love that card. Russ, I'm bullish on Metcalf. I'm bullish on Lockett this year. I'm in on Russ. I'm excited about what they could do under Waldron in general, especially from a fantasy perspective. And I just think if Russ is in that MVP conversation again, if Russ is able to put up those superb fantasy numbers again, we will see that market increase as the season goes on. So give me Russell Wilson here for my 3rd quarterback pick.
I love it. You guys really left me with the greatest football player in NFL history with my final quarterback pick. I'm going to just select Tom Brady. I know we're still looking for Delta, but it seems like this guy's cards just keep going up and up and up in price, and there's seems to be no settling. I like the cards that Dibbs has on their platform. There's not a whole lot left to say about Tom Brady. He's the GOAT. If he gets 8 rings, I don't think it makes a big difference from between 8 and 7, but I don't think that this legacy is going anywhere anytime soon. I think the Bucs are for real again. They bring back pretty much everyone from the Super Bowl winning team last year. So no reason to think that this card market is going to fall off anytime soon. So I'll just take the safety with Tom Brady.
Yeah. They returned first team since like 1970 something. They returned every single starter from their Super Bowl winning team, and they're getting OJ Howard back on offense, which
Crazy.
I think he's going to make a difference. Yeah, they're absolutely loaded, and they'll get a full season of Antonio Brown, who, could make a big difference for Tom Brady. Also, going back to the Russell Wilson selection quickly, dude has no sex with Ciara, and then all of a sudden now he's like Mr. Sex, like dressing up all fancy on like the cover of GQ and stuff. That's got to be good for his card market. He's like a pop figure now. Like I don't know, like everybody knows Russell. Like my wife knows Russell Wilson now because he's piping Ciara or whatever. It's like I don't know. It's got to be good for the card market.
It definitely is.
All right, we're gonna get our first skill position player taken off the board here as I wrap around. And actually, as you look at the Dibbs platform, we know that they have plans to continue to add NFL players as the season continues, but the wide receiver and running back markets are pretty thin, so it is going to drop off here quickly. I know we've only got 3 selections total to make per position, but wide receiver is going to fall off fairly quickly, I believe. And I want to get in there real quick on DeAndre Hopkins. I think he is the best receiver on the platform. Tailing off of what Gary said with Kyler, I really expect another bounce back from Kyler this season. The only thing that maybe holds him back is Cliff Kingsbury, but I expect him to dominate in terms of fantasy this season. Expect big numbers, expect them to contend, and low pop counts on DeAndre Hopkins stuff from 2013. They just weren't producing a whole lot of cards then. So really like the 2013 Topps and 2013 Panini cards from DeAndre Hopkins.
You took away Gary's stack.
Yeah, you did. That's absolutely right. And you just mentioned one of those rare guys that has the Prism and Topps Chrome cards, right? That 2013 class, him, Travis Kelce. It looks like recently over the last year or so, the Prism has started to perform better, at least as far as silvers or refractors are concerned. We were talking about this, you and I think off air with Travis Kelce a couple of weeks ago. But I think both cards, you can't go wrong. As far as DeAndre Hopkins is concerned, who I believe an investor, a friend of the Dibbs community. So DeAndre Hopkins being the first receiver off the board is fitting.
Good for him.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right. And so I'm back up here. So back onto my skill position guys. Let's take a look here. I think I'm going to go in the running back realm of things. And I think I'm going to go with a guy who is the darling of fantasy football. They played 3 games last year. But, we've spoken a lot about this as well, that fantasy success and fantasy hype has, especially on the skill position side of things, translated directly to fantasy card markets. And Christian McCaffrey, the undoubted 101 pick in all of fantasy football this year, undoubtedly going to have that offense built around him. Even the new offense with Sam Darnold there and their good receivers. As long as he stays healthy, he should be, the priciest running back on the slate every week in DFS. He should be a rock to build any kind of weekly or season-long roster around, and just somebody that flashes when he's on the field, somebody that I'm interested in from a running back perspective. So you know what? Give me Christian McCaffrey to have a nice bounce back coming off the injury late in 2020 season and kind of increase his overall market as the season goes along.
Yeah. I mean, he's going to smash. Obviously, I have concerns about how good the Panthers can be, but I do like the way they've kind of built their team and set it up. And I do have some faith in Joe Brady. And I do think Sam Darnold will play better. It's obvious they're not going to compete this year. They could address the quarterback position maybe and get there in the future. But how long can Christian McCaffrey do this for? Like if the Panthers get good in 4 years, McCaffrey could be totally dusted by then. So from a team perspective, I'd be a little bit worried on him, but obviously he's going to totally smash.
Yeah, that's totally fair. I'm thinking from a delta of weeks 1 through 18 of the regular season. This is a buy for me. After that, I think about probably, selling off towards the end of the season, or if I'm talking about having some of his stuff on hand, that's probably what I'm looking at. But I think just as far as kind of, not a sure thing, but a good chance of increasing over the next couple months, I think McCaffrey has as good of a chance of as any running back in the league.
Yep.
For sure.
Okay. I'm on for my last 2, right?
Yep.
And I have to take a running back or a wide receiver, right?
Yeah, you got 1 running back and 1 wide receiver left.
Okay. I'll go ahead and keep the stack going with Nick Chubb, who I don't love for fantasy because it's really hard to get there when you don't really catch passes and you're going to lose time to Kareem Hunt. But Nick Chubb could still score like 20 touchdowns this year, like no problem whatsoever on this really good Browns team with arguably the NFL's best offensive line. And so I don't know like what people think about Nick Chubb in the card community. Like it's kind of a case, it's kind of split in fantasy where like the sharps are kind of off Nick Chubb in fantasy and kind of the more casual players are on Nick Chubb in fantasy. Personable dude. I don't know if that matters at all, but I mean, absolute beast. And you can make a case he's just the best pure runner in the NFL right now on a really good team. So if I have to take a running back, which I probably wouldn't if I didn't have to, I'll go with Nick Chubb.
Yeah, I like that. And you talk about terms of delta, the Nick Chubb card market is fairly cheap right now. And if you're expecting your Browns to make a pretty long playoff run, postseason run, that's definitely a guy that would be heavily involved in that and somebody that would see their card market improve. He's one of those guys that Derrick Henry had a lot of this to him too. Just one of those guys that if he smashes on physicality, some of those, hand in the dirt, Silva types are really going to buy that up. So really like the Nick Chubb call there.
Yeah.
All right, who you got at receiver?
Okay. Receiver, man, I mean, you know what? I'm just going to take him. I was going to say AJ Brown, but I actually think that I prefer DK Metcalf now. They've been going kind of in the same place in drafts. Both are just absolutely popping in the PSM, but I think DK Metcalf could actually break it. And if he's able to do the things that Shane Waldron is talking about, run more quick hitters, run more bubble screens, get the ball out of Russ's hands quickly and get it to Metcalf, which we don't know if he can do, based on his 3-cone time or whatever. But if he can do that stuff, I mean, he could just go absolutely nuclear this year. And the Seahawks are in a very difficult division, but at least like with Russ, like there's some chance every year they can make a run to the Super Bowl, I think. And so I'll go with DK Metcalf. I mean, just absolute freak ascending talent on a good, not great, I don't think, but on a good enough team where they could win 12 games and it wouldn't shock me.
Yeah, you mentioned DK Metcalf and AJ Brown. There was actually at a point this offseason a pretty sizable gap between their markets, but I think the card market has kind of warmed on AJ Brown, and now they're pretty close. And I actually just pulled up DK Metcalf's market for just his physical cards. This card last sold, data from Card Ladder. This card last sold for $874. So you're getting the silver, that is. So you're getting a nice little discount too there on your Dibbs purchase for the silver DK Metcalf, $850.24. So I like that. I like that call.
Yep. And my stacks just keep getting stolen from me here. But yeah, I mean, obviously pops off the PSM model. It's just an absolute ridiculous freak is DK Metcalf. And yeah, I mean, I like both those picks. Going back to Chubb, it's similar thing, as far as just passing the eye test, even if he's not necessarily the apple of the eye of the fantasy community, at least from the sharp side and, possibly for a PPR perspective, we saw him run better as he goes down the stretch there. We're expecting the Browns to be involved in the playoff hunt. So totally makes sense to me as far as the Delta perspective for the regular season. So I'm back on the clock here. I need to take my wide receiver, and I think I'll go to the guy that you were choosing between. I'll take AJ Brown. Obviously, I'm really excited about what that Titans offense is going to look like this year. I'm pumped about Tannehill having Julio on the other side to take some of that coverage from him. And I think AJ Brown, we're going to see possibly peak AJ Brown here going into his third season. So not much to say. I think we all like AJ Brown going into this year, but very excited to have him on my card team. I think he has a great opportunity to increase his card market as he just increases his overall skill set, his overall production.
Love that. All right. Final pick in the inaugural fantasy sports card Dibbs draft. I am going to select from Gary's Giants, Saquon Barkley. Really like Saquon as a running back. I think there's just kind of this, there was the whole offseason narrative and not showing their hand with the injuries and downplaying that or upplaying the injury. I think that he's going to be ready to go week one. I think he's going to smash week one and throughout the season. If the Giants have any chance of having a good offense, I think he's going to be heavily involved. There may be an outside chance that he has a shot at fantasy's overall RB1 if he gets the workload that we expect him to for an entire season. Really like Saquon. His market's down to just with the uncertainty around his, around his return. So really like taking advantage while that's still low, get some delta there and steal a guy from Gary's hometown Giants.
Yeah, I was thinking about doing it as well. I mean, we saw him in his rookie year behind as bad of an offensive line as they're going to have this year, which is going to be bad. Still perform very highly at a fantasy, from a fantasy perspective, from a stats perspective. I think the hate's gone too far from an ADP perspective. I think where people are underdrafting Saquon at this point. And I think as long as he's on the field, ready to go, and even if his workload is limited a little bit for the first couple of weeks, I think by week 3-4 there, he'll be at a normal amount of touches. So I think Saquon is a good bet for a bounce back year for obviously the prolific running back.
All right, guys, this was a ton of fun. I think we're going to call it there. We've completed our drafts. We'll monitor the ROI performance weekly and throughout the rest of the season. We'll see who has bragging rights as this thing closes out. Adam, thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it. Big thanks to Dibbs for the partnership and for having us go over the fantasy draft. I think we'll call it there. For Adam, for Gary, I'm Cody. We'll see you next week.